How's it going, everybody? I'm PJ on How Not to Suck TCG, and I have a wonderful guest joining me on an interview today, and we're going to talk about awesome Pokemon TCG happenings in the past couple of weeks here, and actually for the beginning of the season on, but we'll get there. What you want to know is who I've got on here, so none other than Emma Hagen joining me here. Emma, why don't you tell the people who you are and where they should know you from?
Thank you, PJ. My name is Emma Hagen. I'm currently trying to be a pro Pokemon player full time. I'm what one would define as a one-trick pony, where this season I've only played Flareon, and the past 2 years I've played Pidgeot Control for a year. So just getting good with one deck and seeing the results with that.
Yeah, I actually was able to witness you playing Pidgeot Control at the last year's EUIC, and I thought you did a phenomenal job with that. I was watching that from behind the table because Control for me is one of my favorite archetypes in Pokemon TCG. So to watch a player of your caliber pilot it as well as you did was phenomenal.
Unfortunately, that event was one of the worst events I've ever had because my list was not good. But I'm happy with how that time was in general.
Perfect.
Had some good results.
Absolutely. Well, you know what? You've had a crazy week. How's your week been going so far? Outside of Pokemon, I guess.
What do you mean, PJ? There is no outside of Pokemon.
What is other things than Pokemon? No, I mean, I know that, well, you are in what part of the country now? I know you've been traveling, so I don't know where you are exactly now.
Well, I'm back home in Norway.
Okay.
Like, I've been traveling so much that I haven't been home in 2 months before Gdansk. So it's nice catching up with my family, trying to get back to a normal daily day routine.
Right, right.
But I just still have so much adrenaline.
Yeah, you've had a crazy week, which is good. I mean, obviously with travel and competing and things like that, and you're keeping up with the Twitter or X sphere, I'm sure, with everything going on there. So it is a lot. Obviously, as a competitive player myself, I know how it can get, and it can definitely be overwhelming. So it's good to know that you're at least in good spirits, and we keep talking about Pokemon, right? We have to keep talking about Pokemon. That's what people watching us right now came here for too. So we'll get right into it. Let's go into some Pokemon. So the first question I really want to touch base on is, why Flareon? What made you become drawn to Flareon as a deck? Flareon Noctowl is kind of an underplayed archetype. So I want to hear your thoughts on how you got there.
Well, the story of how I started playing is that one of my testing partners, Nathan Hargreaves, was judging most of the season last season, but he played some American regionals. And at the end of the season, he had one opportunity to get his invite as NAIC. He just needed to top cut the biggest event of all time. And he tied his winning into top cut. I was like, okay, your deck is good. Let me just listen to your advice and take the deck. Brought it to Norwegian Nationals, and the finals was the same 60 mirror. And from that point on, it just never dropped the deck. It just has felt so good, and I'm madly in love with the card Pidgeot DX.
Oh, I mean, Pidgeot has definitely been one of the best cards that people continually underrate over and over again. So, you know, having the full control, I mean, if we look at the old Pidgeot from years past, I mean, that was a world championship card, and it keeps coming back into these lists. So obviously adapting that into your Flareon Noctowl, which you don't always see that card in there. And I know there's been other EV box lists that just include the 101 Pidgeot line. So is that what really sold the deck, is because you had that control over? We were talking about control earlier. Do you just like these decks that you can control?
Well, this is the most aggressive deck in the format, so I wouldn't call it a control deck, but having access to set up checkmate scenarios to just always get what you need on your turn, just so extremely valuable.
Right.
Like, I'm not a major fan of variants, and if there's any way of me getting to just be in charge of the game, that's something I value a lot. And being able to search up any card just gives me that control of the game.
Perfect. And now, obviously, the list that you played most recently wasn't the only version of Flareon, obviously, with tech cards in and out. So how did you work on refining the list from when you started playing Flareon?
Well, I've definitely played a lot of bad cards in my list at times, but there are crucially two things I have never done with the list. One, I have never cut the Pidgeot EX. Pidgeot is the only reason the deck is playable. It's a tier 3 deck if you cut the card. And two, I have never played Sylveon EX in the deck. I have never even tested Sylveon EX in the deck. Because you go to theory crafting, which matchup do you do what? And then you think, oh yeah, you were the most aggressive deck in the format. You should go aggressive. Pidgeot, Sylveon EX just tries to pretend to be a control card in a deck that always wants to take prize cards every single turn. So it's just completely counterintuitive to the game plan. And aside from just keeping those two important things in mind, it has just been refining the list through testing and through tournaments and through just wake-up calls that have happened. For example, last week in Lille, I went 2-4, bricked twice and lost to a bad matchup twice. And I was like, we can't have this. Let's cut every card we can for a consistency card, and it managed to work.
Absolutely. And obviously we did see it work. So that's where I wanted to see why, obviously we talked about a couple of things here, why you thought that this was the correct deck for you to play, and, why we are locking in on this Flareon Noctowl deck with Pidgeot as the driving force here. But I want to know how your testing went, where you're just like, okay, I had a kind of terrible run in Lille, but I definitely still want to play this deck for Gdansk. So how did you arrive to that conclusion?
Well, if you get too biased up in recent results, you will just have horrible testing. Like the past 5 relevant events I played before Lille were nationals where the deck got first, I got second. Frankfurt, where I got top 64 after a 7-1 start. Pittsburgh, where I got top 64 after a 7-1 start. Full grip 5K, which I won. And Milwaukee, where I also got top 64 after a 7-1 start. Like, going 7-1 at a regional once is incredibly difficult.
Right.
Doing it 3 times in a row means that your deck is really good. And if you play the deck well, the deck is really, really good.
Right. Yeah, and that's what I've also put on a couple of videos on this channel, is that, a lot of players have this anxiety about playing Pokemon TCG where they go in and say, okay, there's so many great decks in the format. There's so many archetypes I could learn how to play, and I have access to so many cards, because now you really can just order singles for whatever deck that you want, or go to the vendors at regionals and pick up a deck. But you sticking to an archetype and just playing it through has obviously shown so much success. And we've seen a lot of great players throughout the years. They just play the same deck. Maybe they changed a few cards here and there. So I really think that that's an interesting part of your journey so far this season, that you've just stayed with Flareon. I mean, would you say that that's kind of what you have seen the most success with just sticking with a deck that you know?
That's what most people should do, because if you're not the best player in the world or at that caliber, you're not going to play correctly with a new deck. You're going to have to make a lot of misplays before you see those misplays in the future. And don't get me wrong, like, I consider myself the best Flareon player, but I know I made some misplays during the tournaments. Like, especially during my top 8 game, there was a play that just didn't need to happen that could have punished me.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely happens time after time, especially if you go back and you're rewatching games, and a lot of players will get into their own heads and just almost psych themselves out. But I think that mentally having a deck, just like you were talking about, that how all the lines should go in theory, and you've tested those matchups time after time, there shouldn't be any reason why you're putting that deck down. there's lots of decks that are posted online, and there's lots of things that you can come across. I myself have found, that to be true, where I see shiny new toy online and, ooh, I want to play that, because Pokemon cards are fun, right? We love playing Pokemon cards for a reason. But when you're in a competitive situation, just sticking to something that takes a lot of mental pressure off, I feel.
It certainly does.
Yeah. So walk me through Gdańsk and let me know what some key highlights of that tournament run were for you. I know you talked about, watching back your games and top 8 and seeing some misplays, but what were some of the better parts of that tournament for you, or good plays that you had made?
Well, I certainly made a lot of great plays that I'm very proud of during that same game. I made a misplay. I also made an amazing play where I was able to discard all my liabilities with basically a barren board, and I also got a lot of luck during this tournament. To really succeed and go to finals of a regionals, you need to play well, and you also need to get lucky by putting yourself in positions where you can get lucky. Dragapult is my worst matchup, for example. I played against Henry Brown on Dragapult. Game 1, I donk him. Game 2, we get deck checked, and he got a game loss.
Oof.
I essentially had plot armor in that match, and I just needed to not throw the rest of the tournament when I got lucky at the situation where I did need to get lucky. I didn't throw the rest of the tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I watched some of your games, and I could see where your thought process was on a lot of these lines, and learning how to play Flareon Noctowl a little bit better just by watching, and seeing what you're discarding versus what you're holding as resources and how your attacks are all lining up. I mean, that obviously plays into a ton of these very skill-intensive decks. We look at decks like Gardevoir, we've got Dragapult in the format. Grimmsnarl is another one that I see a lot of Noctowl players struggle with, just because there's so many abilities on the board. With Absolbox ripping resources out of your hand more and more often now with that deck, you definitely have to manage resources with your deck more than anything. And I think that's why maybe the majority of players aren't flocking to Flareon Noctowl, because you just have to know how to manage your resources a lot more. Did you find yourself in a lot of situations where you were indecisive about resources you were managing?
Well, I wasn't typically indecisive, because I played this deck for 6 months. I played hundreds of regionals matches with it, and I should know every matchup in and out. And also, my pace of play is among the fastest I know, and at that point, I get a lot of time to think on my opponent's turn.
Right.
With a deck that searches out cards instead of drawing, I can formulate a game plan before I even draw a card. So
yeah,
I wasn't really indecisive about many things, because just kind of know how to react to them.
Exactly. And that's what you see again from yourself and a lot of other, top tier pro players, that going back to this, I hate driving it home again and again, but the more you play a deck, the better you get at a deck. And that's obviously what we were able to see you accomplish, your finalist position at Gdańsk. So I know that you had your testing partner in there. were you testing with Christian at all leading up to the event?
Oh yeah, we had a boot camp from Lille to Gdansk. We went straight from the country of France, took some trains, had a night in Berlin, and went straight to Gdansk, and stayed there the entire week. Did a lot of testing, a lot of good food. Went to the massage a day to handle the physical stress.
Right.
So our testing group just did basically the perfect testing for this event, with 3 out of the 6 people in that boot camp making top cut, with me, Christian, and Julius Mukhal.
Yeah. Now, was everybody finalized on what deck they were going to bring to the event, or did you beating the absolute pants off of them in testing make them decide otherwise?
Well, two things about that. Because
Yeah.
I actually didn't win that much in the boot
Really?
camp because the matchup we played the most was the Dragapult matchup,
Mm.
and I had one of the better Dragapult pilots in the room with me.
Yeah.
So I was able to try every idea I wanted
Mm-hmm.
and see that every idea I wanted was garbage. So we just ended up taking a loss to the deck.
Right.
That was fine. More consistency instead.
Mm-hmm.
But five of us were, well, four of us. One played Alakazam in the end. But the rest of us were mostly locked on decks.
Okay.
Christian, Luke, Leah, and I were all like super locked on the deck very early.
Mm-hmm.
But Julius was like trying to make controller work and trying to make Frostless Monkey Dory work.
Mm-hmm.
And we just like beat him in favored matchups where he like didn't really play as well as he wanted to. So we managed to convince him to play Dragapult in the end, which was the deck he played to Lil, a deck
Right.
he has a lot of experience with. And it
Yeah.
really paid off with his first top cut.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that goes to show, again, shiny new toy syndrome. Decks seem great in theory on paper, but when you actually play them and they start bricking more and more often, you said yourself, variance is a key factor in deciding a deck. If there's too much variance involved, the deck just doesn't work. I mean, maybe it beats it if you get all your cards set up, but if your cards only get set up 20% of the time, it's not a great deck to play.
No.
So that's what I would take from that. So obviously, you found success on not only grassroots tournaments like we had mentioned here, the Full Grip event in Ohio, but also all the way to an international stage. So what has been the most rewarding part of your Pokemon career?
Well, it's been a lot of ups and downs. I've had to sacrifice a lot for this game. So the things I'm most appreciative for is one, that it's actually working, that all the thousands of hours I put into this game are paying off, and achieving the dream I've had for so many years since I was a child.
Mm-hmm.
And then also it just feels so rewarding to hear so many people call me an inspiration. Like outside of Pokemon, I'm just a kid from a random place in Norway, but
Mm-hmm.
in Pokemon, I get to show it's possible, and just to showcase my confidence and
Yeah.
just show people it's not a problem to be who you are, and in this scene you can still succeed, and you'll still have the world support you.
That's right. I mean, you were even out there aura farming on Twitter or X with the deck list post beforehand. You knew that you were going to do well. You posted the 60. Didn't care. Didn't matter. You knew how to play the deck. So, with that being said, I mean, is it number one in your region of the world right now? You're number one player in that region. What advice would you give to either new players trying to start the game, or anybody that's trying to become more competitive at Pokemon TCG?
If you're actively wanting to get better at the game and wanted to get more competitive, the number one advice I can give is just coaching.
Yeah.
The best way to get better at this game and to be the best is networking,
Mm-hmm.
and that's something that you don't start off with.
Right.
But if you do coaching, then you can get a shortcut to that.
That's right.
And aside from that, it's just handling your mental well. If you're good with a deck, you can have success, but if your mental just crumbles when you're 3-0, when you start feeling pressure, then you're never going to have a deep run, regardless of how good your play or your deck building is.
Exactly.
You need to make sure that you're feeling in good shape physically and mentally. Something you have to work on a lot, but there's a lot of ways to work on that.
Exactly. And I will say that that's true. Just, having either a solid testing group of players that, know
Hmm.
the ins and outs of Pokemon, or fast tracking it by just having a one-on-one coach point out things that you wouldn't see necessarily. I think that that's the biggest thing about coaching, is just having that second set of eyes on how you're playing your games. That way you can start to see where your mistakes are and start building that. And networking obviously is great. I know personally, I've networked with a lot of people in Pokemon TCG over the years. Created some great friendships out of it for sure. And that's why I keep coming back to the game. I keep on being part of this community, is really just because a lot of people are there for you. We all love the same game, and we all love competing. So
Okay.
one part I wanted to touch on real quick here too is, obviously you've had great success. We know that you don't suck here on How Not to Suck TCG, but being a woman in a male dominated TCG game has got to be difficult. So I want to get your perspective. I know that there's been some hateful comments out on the internet, which nobody should pay attention to, because you know what? If you're making those comments, you do kind of suck, and you should probably figure it out. But aside from that, I want your perspective on how you've been able to navigate, being a female in this space and going forward in the Pokemon TCG community.
Like it's definitely something that I think about often, but for
Mm-hmm.
me, it's more of an upside than a downside personally, because I get to meet so many new people who just are fans of me because
Mm-hmm.
of me giving them representation, that
Right.
showing them that being a top player as a woman is not a problem, that being rank one Europe as a woman is not a problem.
Yeah.
So because I've had so much success in the game, like I haven't really gotten that
Mm-hmm.
much throwback from it.
Right.
Like all the negative comments, it's just like I know I look good. I don't care what some random people say.
Exactly.
And at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is what the people I care about think, and the people I care about hold me in a high regard because I've worked to get that high regard.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, you're where you are because of who you are. Me as a father, I have a daughter who has been in and out of at least the local scene, but I've seen so many others who are in the Pokemon community that get a negative taste in their mouth because of
Mm,
how some of the
yeah.
community members act. And I don't think that it's any place for that. I don't think that it matters. I have plenty of friends who are, either female or trans or part of the LGBTQ plus community that are part of this game that I'm great friends with. It doesn't matter what orientation you are. If you're a good human being and you play cards really good, and you should be able to be, have that ego about you. You know what I mean? You should be able to have that because you're either good at the game or a great part of the community. Um, you know, we need to start judging people on their actions and how they treat other people. That's my take, at least.
Agreed. Like a lot of the reason why I've been able to avoid most of the negativities in this game is
Hmm.
because I've just had so much confidence, and
Yeah.
the the reason for like all these negative comments is
Hmm.
because people have stereotypes about women being bad at the game. But
Right.
when you have a woman who's confidently good at the game, those type of things just don't really happen in the same manner.
Exactly.
I'm very, very thankful that I'm able to have such a confidence for myself,
Hmm.
and I feel for the people who don't,
Yeah.
because the local scene and the internet can be so brutal at times.
Exactly. And would you say that that helps you with your mental game leading up to an event, and does it keep you focused?
Well, my mental is good because my confidence.
Hmm.
Like I've done this so many times that it's just basically a day at the office.
Right.
I know what I'm doing. I'm confident in my deck. I'm confident in my play. I'm confident in my looks. I'm confident in everything going into the event.
Hmm.
I've made the preparations. I've made sure that I bring enough water. I make sure that I bring the correct food.
Yeah.
And when I'm walking through the doors, I know I've done a good job preparing, so
Right.
there's nothing really to take me on in the mental.
Well, I mean, I want to see you compete some more, and I'm sure lots of other people out there listening and watching definitely do as well. So I want to get your take here before we close things off on how you imagine the rest of your season going for Pokemon TCG this year and into next, and what some goals you have for yourself are.
Well, my primary goal has always been top 22. In Europe, if you get top 22 at the end of the season, you get a travel award to go to Worlds. I have never gone to Worlds with a normal invite, and I don't really intend to. I've only played one Worlds, that was in seniors. Got my top 20 top 22 fairly easily. And in Masters, it's been a big challenge that I've really wanted to do. Well, doing the normal invites hasn't really been that challenging for me because in 2019 when I started with Masters, the invite was fairly attainable, and then my skill level got better before the World's level got better, so it's always felt like a goal that was just out of reach with the top 22. Aside from like other results, I don't really care that much. I get the results that I get based on my practice, my inputs. I would love to have another top cut, but as long as I don't actively throw the rest of the season, this is a season I'm extremely happy with. Just my season so far in 5 events has been my best season ever by far. So there's nothing I can complain about and nothing I can foresee complaining about in rest of the season either.
That's right. Well, if we keep on this track here, I'm sure we'll see you in the top 22 for sure. But with all that being said, I know that you've got a Metafy to plug because you've got that phenomenal EV course out right now, and I know a couple of my friends have already purchased it. So I want to hear where the people can find you on the interwebs and where you can shout out some people at the end of this interview here. So the floor is yours, Emma.
Yeah, thank you. If you want to find me, my username on Twitter is Little Latius, or just you can write Emma Hagen, it'll show up. And on Metafy, I actually don't use an own account. We use the team account, so it's on Project Artemis, or you can just go on the front page of Guides with Pokemon TCG and you'll find it there. As for shoutouts, I do really want to thank my team. Like, this run would not have been possible without getting the support from my team, being able to stay in the US for so long that I did because of my teammates' support. I want to thank our sponsors, Heavy Play, FCBC, for supporting us along the way. And I wanted to shout out and thank my European group with Christian Fontenot, Julius Mokra, Luke, the gang, testing in Europe, Nathan Hargreaves being low-key one of the best testing partners in the continent, despite being full-time judge.
Yeah, I mean, you've got a lot of great players to back you up. And again, one more time, I'm sure that we're going to see you up in some top cuts leading up to the World Championships here in 2026. So I can't wait to watch the rest of your run. I hope Flareon never gets cards that are relevant that rotate, so you can keep playing that until the end of the season. And we'll keep on keeping on. So if you haven't already, make sure that you're going to check out some of Emma's content and making sure that you're supporting her and her team going forward. That's all I've got for right now. Hopefully you enjoyed what you were watching here. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you like more content like this, and comment down below. If you have any questions for myself or Emma, we'll be able to answer them there. One more last time, this is PJ signing off on How Not to Suck TCG. We'll catch you next time.